So what we're going to do today is called factoring. And we've seen factoring before. If we factor a number like 6, I'll keep it pretty simple, and we do a factor tree, what do we get? We get 3 and 2. And what we're trying to find here is numbers that multiply together to get 6. So when we do the factor tree, we know that 6 is 2 times 3. This is the same thing as saying, if I have a rectangle, and the area of this rectangle is 6, then what could the length and the width of this rectangle be to get an area of 6? 2 and 3, right? So we know that we could do 2 times 3 to get 6, so that means that the length and the width, let me do that the other way, the length and the width could be 2 and 3. Are those the only possible length and width for an area of 6? Couldn't it be 1 and 6? Or 1/3 and 18? If you multiply those together, you would get 6, right? So they're not the only ones, but those are 2 possible factors that multiply to get 6, which means that if we know the area of this rectangle is 6, the length and the width of the rectangle could be 2 and 3. Okay, so this is just a different way of thinking about factoring regular numbers like we've been doing. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to factor polynomial expressions. So we're going to factor things like this. So what's going on here in this problem is that the area of the rectangle, the area of this big rectangle here, is going to be given by this right here, the 8c plus 10. So I know the area of the whole thing is 8c plus 10. That's the answer. So if I know the whole area is 8c plus 10, then what I can do is I can just put those into my picture and say, okay, the area of this one's going to be 8c, and the area of this one's going to be 10. Go ahead and write that in yours. Now, for this week, we're going to give you at least a starting point. We're going to tell you one thing that we're going to multiply to get this 8c plus 10. We're going to give you one of the factors. Your goal is to find the other factor. Next week, when we have problems like this, you're going to have to figure out what number goes here. Now, I'll tell you right now, this 2, that's the GCF of 8c and 10. So what we're going to do here is we're going to find the GCF of these 2 numbers, and that's going to be the first factor, at least for these types of problems. When we get to the 2 by 2 rectangles, then it'll be a little bit different. All right, so I know that the areas of these 2 rectangles are 8c and 10. What I want to figure out is what the lengths are going to be here to make that. So to start with, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say the area of this one is going to be 2 times something, and the area of this one is also going to be 2 times something, because the length of these rectangles here are 2. I've labeled that on the side here. Everybody okay with that? We're going to try to fill in these blanks here, and with this problem, I think it's pretty straightforward. We're just trying to figure out, what do we multiply by 2 to get 8c? What do we multiply by 2 to get 8c? Gabrielle? 4c. So that means that this right here is going to be 4c. Now, if you didn't know that, what could you do to get that? Yeah, 8c divided by 2, right? So we do the 8 divided by 2, and the c is going to stick around. So that's going to be 4c. What do we multiply by 2 to get 10? 5
times 2.
Right? So we multiply by 5. If you didn't know that, you could do 10 divided by 2 and you get 5. You get what we fill in the blank there. Now, since we know that the area of this rectangle is going to be 2 times 4c, and this side here is 2, what's this side going to be? 4c. So what we did is we figured out what the length of that side of the rectangle is. How about this side right here? 5. So what do I fill in the blanks here to make this equation true? 4c plus 5, right? Go ahead and do the second one. Exactly the same way. So the only difference here is I did not label the length of this rectangle right here. You'll have to do that. And then figure out what you multiply by that length to get each of those areas. What are we going to put over here for the length of this side?
5.
That's going to be 5. And what's the area of this rectangle here going to be? We'll make that one 15D. And how about the area of this rectangle? We'll make that 35. So to get the area of each of those rectangles then, we'll do 5 times something, and then 5 times something else. So what do we multiply by 5 to get 15D? What do you multiply by 5 to get 15? 3, right? 5 times 3 is 15. If you didn't know that, you do 15 divided by 5, right? So can I just put a 3 here? No? What else do I need? I need the D, right? So it's going to be 3D. What do we multiply by 5 to get 35? Alice? Okay. And if you didn't know that, to figure that out, you could do, I'll just write this off to the side, 35 divided by 5. And that's going to tell you what goes there. All right, so now that we know what we multiply by 5 to get each of those areas, what's the length or the width of this part going to be right here? That's 3D. And what's the width of this one going to be? 7. So then what are we going to put in the blanks here?
3D plus 7.
3D plus 7. I know this probably feels a little repetitive, especially because you're writing the 3D and the 7 here and here and here. But again, the problems are going to get a little more complicated, and the better you organize your work, the better off you're going to be. So go ahead and flip it over. And here's where they get more complicated. Here's the problem we have here. How many rectangles are there? There's 4 rectangles. How many areas do we have right here in our answer? There's 3 of them, right? We have a 10e squared, we have a 19e, and we have a 6. So we have 4 boxes for 3 terms. Well, if you remember in our opener today and the problems we've been doing like this term, the middle term, we got by combining like terms, right? So this 19e we're actually going to get by adding 2 boxes together. Which boxes are we going to add together to get that 19e? If you remember, when we were doing these the other way, when we were distributing, this box here and this box here always combined because they were like terms. So the same thing is going to be true here. Those 2 boxes are going to add together to get 19e. So they're going to add up to get a total of 19e. So that means that one of them could be 18e and the other one could be 1e. Or one of them could be 17e and the other one could be what? 2e. Or one could be 10e and the other one would be 9e. But we don't know which one we need to pick yet. So we're going to get there. Okay, let's just fill out what we do know for sure. First of all, where can this 2e go? Right there? What else can we fill in? Can I put that 10e squared somewhere? Which rectangle is that going to be, the area of?
The first line. That one right there.
So the top left is going to be this one. If you say right there, I don't understand what you're saying. I can't see where you're pointing. Where's the 6 going to go? Where's the 6 going to go?
Bottom left.
Bottom right. Remember, the bottom left and the top right are going to combine to get the 19e. So if this was, say, 15e, then this would be 4e. If this was 12e, then this would be 7e. So those 2, the bottom left and the top right, have to add up to get 19e somehow. All right, so let's start seeing what we can get out of this. I know that these 2 are going to add up to 19e. I know this one's 10e squared. I know this is 6. There's only one thing I know for sure right now, and that's what? What I can do right now is say this is going to be 2e times something. And actually, I also know that this is going to be 2e times something, and we'll get to that later. But I'll go ahead and put that in there too. Claire, what do I multiply by 2e to get 10e squared? You just said it, Claire.
Oh,
5e, right? So 2e times 5e is going to give us 10e squared, which means that this width right here is going to be what? 5e. So I know that's going to be right there. Now, I know that this rectangle is going to be 2e times something, and I know that this rectangle is going to be what? 5e times something. So we're going to have something times 5e right there. So I'm going to write that in. Something times 5e. Now, the other thing I know is that I'm going to have two numbers here that are going to multiply together to get 6. So here I'm going to have something times something, and that's going to give me 6. So let's write down our choices. What numbers multiply to get 6?
2, 3.
Okay, we could do 2 times 3. What else?
6 and 1.
1 and 6, right? So what that tells me is that these two numbers here either have to be 2 times 3 or they have to be 1 times 6. Since these two numbers are going to be 2 and 3 or 1 and 6, then that means that this number and this number also have to be either 2 and 3 or 1 and 6. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to try some things out and see what works. I'm going to do that up here, and then I'll let you write down the answer. And then you can do this on your own for the second one. All right, so I'm going to pick one and try it. I'm going to try 1 here and 6 here and see if that works. What's 1 times 5? Okay, so 1 times 5e would be 5e. What's 2e times 6? 12e, right? Okay, so we have 5e here and we have 12e here. What do those add up to? 17e, right? Is that what they need to add up to? No, so the 1 and 6 don't work like that. So let's try them another way. Let's try 6 here and 1 here. See if that works. What is 6 times 5? E. 30e. What's 2e times 1? 2e. That's going to give us 32e, right? That's too big. That's not going to work either. So I know that the 6 and the 1 aren't going to work either way. So let's try the 2 and the 3. Let's put the 2 in here and the 3 in here. What's 2 times 5e? What's 2e times 3? So we have 10e plus 6e is what? 16e. That also doesn't work. So the only other one is 3 times, and then 3 and then 2. Sorry. So 3 times 5e is 15e. 2e times 2 is 4e. Does that work? What's 15 plus 4? 19. Is that what we want?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So that's what's going to work. That means that this 3 times 5e is what? 15e. The 2e times 2 is?
4e.
4e. And so I can use that. Let me fill in these blanks here. Sorry. So this is going to be 3 times 2 now. We know that. And I can use that now to figure out what this side's going to be. This length right here, since I multiply 3 times 5e to get 15e, and I multiply 3 times 2 to get the 6, what's going to go right here? The 3. Because I have a 3 here and a 3 here. Okay, what do these two have in common? They have the 2, right? So since we multiplied 2 here and we multiplied 2 here, then we're going to have a 2 right here. All right, so let's go up and fill in our blanks. What's going to go here with the 2e? Let's look at this side of the rectangle here. This side of the rectangle is 2e plus 3. So that's going to go in here. And then on the other side of the rectangle, what are we going to have? 5e plus 2. To start with, I'm going to label everything that I know for sure. I can put this 3f somewhere. Where can I put that?
Inside, at the top.
Okay, that's going to go right there. I can put the 12f squared somewhere. I know that's going to be the area of what?
Inside the box on the top.
Top left, right? So the area of this box is going to be 12f squared. The 35 I can also put somewhere. Where's that going to go?
Big bottom.
Yeah, that's going to be the area of the bottom right Sorry, that should be 35. That's going to be the area of the bottom right rectangle. Those are the only things that I know for sure right now. The other thing I do know, though, is that this rectangle right here and this rectangle right here, the areas of those two rectangles are going to add up to what?
43.
Those need to add up to 43. All right, so when I start trying numbers later, I know that these two rectangles here are going to add up to 43F. I can't put that 43F anywhere in here because it's going to be the combination of these two when we add those together. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start figuring out what goes where. I know that since this length right here is 3F, that this rectangle is going to be 3F times something, and this rectangle is going to be 3F times something. And one of those I can figure out really easily. What's going to go right here? 4F, right? Because 3F times 4F is 12F squared. So that's going to be 4F. And that means that this is going to be 4F. And since this is 4F, I know that this rectangle is going to be something times 4F. All right, so I'm making pretty good progress here. And then the last thing here is I know that the two numbers I multiply together here are going to multiply to get 35. So what numbers multiply together to get 35? 5 times 7 or? There's always one that works, which is what? 1 times 35, right? You can always do 1 times the number. Don't forget about that one because that might be the one that actually works. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to start plugging in numbers and see if it works. So let's try the... Which one do you guys want to use first? The 5 and the 7 or the 1 and the 35? The 1 and the 35? All right, so if we put 1 in here, what's 1 times 4F? 4F. What's 35 times 3? I'll give you a hint. It's 105. All right. So 105 plus 4F is going to give us 109. That's a little too big, isn't it? Because it's supposed to be 43. All right, so let's try it the other way. Let's put the 35 here. 35 times 4 is 140, right? And 3F times 1 is 3F. So 143F. No, it's supposed to be just 43, not 143. So that's too big also. So it's not going to be the 1 and the 35. Let's get rid of that. How about the 5 and the 7? Let's try the 5 here. 5 times 4F is 5 times 4F is 20F. 7 times 3F is 21. That gives us 43, right? That doesn't work. So Claire says this needs to be 7. Put the 7 in here. What do we get? 7 times 4F. 7 times 4 is 28. 3F times 5. 28 plus 15 is, that works. So this is going to be 7, this is going to be 5. So 7 times 4F, that gives us the 28F. 3F times 5 is going to give us the 15F. And when we combine those, just to check, 28F plus 15F is 43F. That's what we needed. So now I can fill this in here also, 7 times 5 to get the 35. I know what goes there. So what's going to go here on this side with the 3F? Look at what these two have in common. They both have the 7, right? So that's going to go here. And what do these two have in common? The 5. So that's going to go here. Now remember, I said I always like to put these first. If I keep that up here, it's easy for me to figure out which one's going to go over here because since the one on top, the 4F, was second, then whatever was first had to be, well, whatever this length was right here. If you mix them up, what you have to look for is what they have in common. Since these have 7 as a common factor, that common factor is going to be what goes out front. And since these have 5 as a common factor, that 5 is what's going to go up top. So now we just fill in our blanks. What's going to go with the 3F here? This side right here. That's going to be the 7. And then what's going to go in these two here? The 4F plus 5.